Okie dokie, hello and welcome everyone. This is CRI2101. This is a critical analysis class and you guys are here in week 2. Right, even though right now of the semester, this is week 2, but this is only week 1 for us because this is a new section, and then most of you guys, are here because you just recently got open into this section, right? Therefore, we are basically a bit behind as compared to other sections. Therefore, I really recommend you guys to go ahead and have a look at the slides, study by yourself, and please if you have anything that you don't understand, it's very crucial of you to please email me, and then we're gonna have a private session if you want to, and if we have the time we can do that. Okay, so we are lagging behind. On top of that, we also will be having our test 1 soon. Okay, and the problem is yesterday was supposed to be our first class, and apparently only two people came. All right, and that's very disappointing. And I don't know about you guys, but you should be very afraid because your test 1 is coming up soon, right after Chinese New Year. All right. Okay, so what we are trying to do today is that instead of having a face-to-face class, I've decided to do an online class because it's going to be a little bit hard since most of you guys perhaps are not even here in Inti, and then we're just going to do an online class. Okay, so in this online class, I'll be talking and recapping more about what we've discussed from yesterday's class, especially when it comes to assignments and assessments, which are very crucial. And then we're going to continue on talking about what are we arguing about. So yesterday we talked about claims and arguments, which will be tested in your test 1 as well. And then we're going to, pick up from what we left yesterday, and then we'll see what we can do today. Right, so for some of you guys who have not met me and who have not, being taught by me, so my name is Miss Wan Nur Farah Wan Shamsuddin. You can just simply call me Miss Farah. My office is at Kolal, and I am at the level 3, which is very near to the bridge over there. If you want to come and see me, please call the extension number 2451 at the counter once you reach a Kolal office. Okay, this is important because if you come here and you expect me to know that you're here, it's very much impossible. So you need to call my extension number first, and then I'll come out and see you guys there. Right, so next I want to talk about assessment. This is the assessment, which all means that these are the only things that you guys will be tested and taken as the 100% cost mark, the whole grade of your CRI subject. Okay, so these are the only things that will constitute marks to the overall 100% for your grade for your CRI. It's not the Blackboard task, it's not anything else. It's not the pop quiz that if we were to have it in class, it's not it. Okay, these are the only things that will be marked. But however, it's very crucial for you to do your online tasks, simply because those online tasks, those Blackboard tasks, will help you to understand your, the whole fundamental knowledge about CRI. And I don't say this to you guys because we've never met or because I've only met 2 of you guys, but CRI is pretty much quite a hard course to get an A with. Okay, just a heads up, it could be slightly harder. You need to work very hard in order for you to get A if that is what you're aiming for. Alright, so let's see. What I did here, I have classified when is the week of the assessment is going to be due. Therefore, I hope you can plan your semester. You can have a clear expectations on what will happen throughout the semester. And this is the weightage of each assessment for this course. And to simply put it, we will be having test 1 as early as week 4. So by all means, right after your Chinese New Year break, we've only got just simple 1 more week before before you guys go for your test 1. And if I were you guys, I'll be very, very, very afraid, because this is a very theoretical based course. You have to understand, you have to memorize, but to simply put, you have to understand the theory behind it. Then only you can apply it in the test itself. Alright, so that is going to be in week 4. Next, you guys will be having your tutorial. We only say tutorial, but really what we mean is actually pretty much like an assignment. Okay, so your argumentative essay is not an assignment, it's a test. So we will give you like an actual English test where you have to give us some arguments. Okay, so that will be in week 6, and in week 7 you guys should be able to give us a reflection essay. So in this reflection essay, we will give you a reading where you have to ponder, you have to reflect, you have to think about the reading and link it back to you. And then we're going to give you a couple of questions for you to answer so that you can put it in your reflective essay as well. That one's going to do in week 7. And even in week 7 itself, you will be listening to a guest speaker series where that person will talk about zero waste project. This zero waste project is not in conjunction with WWF, but it's from someone else. But we're still going to talk about zero waste project and zero waste campaign. Out of it, we want you guys to apply 5 whys, 6 thinking hats, SWOT, and then you have to give us a bit of a write-up or proposal, and then you will have to present it to us. So here you have a bit of everything. For tests and tutorials, they are individual work, but for group project and also the last assignment, it is a group work. Therefore, you have to come to class because we will be forming groups where you guys have to complete 2 projects in this course. Yeah, so this one you can have the same group, or you can go and have a different group if you want to. Please choose your own group mates. I'm not gonna babysit you guys and have determine you guys the groups that you belong to. You guys do it and sort it yourself. Okay, right. And lastly, we're gonna have a final assignment, which is trying to detect advertising manipulation. As a consumer, a critical consumer, if you can say it, you need to be able to see if that advert or advertisement is actually trying to manipulate the actual claim of it. Okay, and for that particular assignment, you have to write a write-up and also to present it to us, and that will due at the end of this semester. And because this is 100% coursework, you guys will be pretty much busy the whole semester itself. Therefore, I highly encourage you to plan your semester wisely. Make sure that any of these assignments does not coincide or does not clash with your personal vacation. If you want to take leave or anything, please before you buy those flight tickets, make sure it does not clash with on any of these assignments. Yeah, okay. Right, this is just an illustration of what's going to happen throughout the semester. Right, so yesterday we had a class and we talk a lot in the class simply because we don't have much time. Right, we don't have much time, and we need to finish the syllabus because you guys will be having your test 1 soon. So what did we learn yesterday? So if you come to class or if you have read the slides, I want you to pause the video and I want you to try and answer these 6 questions. Okay, these 6 questions. These are very crucial because this will come out in your test 1. Okay, so I want you to pause this video and I want you to answer it in your book or in a piece of paper, and then we're going to discuss about the answers in a bit, right? Okay, let's see. So the word critical itself comes from a Greek word which means to separate or to segregate or to differentiate. So basically you are separating yourself, okay? So why do we need to learn critical thinking? It's because we try to defend ourselves in a world that is too much information, even much information. If you guys go on social media where people keep on posting and giving their personal view, so as a critical person, as this member of the society, you need to be able to segregate, to separate information, to know if the information is correct or not, to think whether or not the arguments that people said online is correct or not correct, and to defend ourselves when people try to convince us with something. Have you ever encountered when you go to a mall or any kind of mall, people will come out to you and say, you should sign up for UNICEF. You need to help human. You need to sign up for WWF. You need to help the animals. So very often, people will come up to you and try to convince you with something, try to make you feel bad. Am I right? But now, once you have enrolled in this course, you should be able to defend yourself and to separate your own opinion with what other people think about you. Okay, so yesterday as well, we talked about claims and non-claims. So the definition of claim is that claim is a declarative sentence. How do you know that it's a declarative sentence? So what makes a non-declarative sentences are, number 1, questions, number 2, instructions, number 3, declarative, non-declarative sentence are instructions, prayer, and also question. So if it's none of these 3 things, it means that it's a declarative sentence. Now, that's not only it. A claim should also entail a certain truthness or falseness. So what it means that it could be true, it could be false, but never both true and false. Okay? If you still don't understand about this, please refer to previous slides to have a look and study by yourself about claim. Right? So now, as I mentioned, what are not declarative sentences? They are instructions, questions, and also prayers. These 3 are not declarative sentences. So if you have claims who are in the form of instructions, who are in the form of questions, who are in form of prayers, they're not declarative sentences. Right, to simply put, yesterday we learned about arguments, and the formula for arguments is premise or premises. So you can give one or more premises and conclusion. So here, premises are reasons or evidences for why your argument is that way. Conclusion, on the other hand, is what is the main idea. What can you conclude from the argument? And this one, if you still do not understand about this, please also refer back to previous slides because I have mentioned it in our first class. And if you still don't understand, you can try and schedule an appointment to see me. Okay? So this one, you can conduct 2 tests. Number 1, to see if it's a claim or not. First, take a look if it's a declarative sentence. If it's yes, then you go for another test. If it's no, it's automatically not a claim. So this is the second test. You have to look at the claim. Does it entail true or false? If it does, be it true, be it false, both are still considered as claim. Alright? So that's it. Just a recap on what we had for yesterday's class. Now, I want to discuss about these 3 examples, or these 3 statements, because these 3 statements are some resemblance on what will be tested in your test 1. Okay, let's take a look at these 3 sentences. If you can, I want you to pause the video. If you can't, you just simply listen to my explanation about these sentences. So first we have Sam Smith is a girl. So here, is this a claim or not? Good. This is a claim. Why? So we try to do the two tests. As I mentioned before, we have to do the two tests here. So first, have a look at this. Is this a declarative sentence? Again, how do you know it's a declarative sentence or not? Have a look. Is it an instruction? Is it a question? Or is it a prayer? If it's none of these three things, therefore it is a declarative sentence. This is not a question. This is not a prayer. This is also not an instruction. Therefore, this is a declarative sentence. Next, let's see, does this have meaning that it's true or false? So, you guys know Sam Smith, he's a guy, right? He's a male. Therefore, this is false. But this is also a claim, even though it has falseness to it. Because it entails false, it means it's a claim. Right. Number 2 is very straightforward. This is a question. Therefore, this is not a claim. Lastly, we have here. This is a Korean writing, Hangul. What does it say? Norang na. Anybody knows what it means? Norang na? So, norang na is not a claim because for people who do not understand Korean language or could not read Korean alphabet, they could not understand it. So when you cannot understand, it has no meanings to you. So when there's no meaning to you, it's not a claim. Alright, got it? Okay, moving on. So now we basically have summarized what we've learned from our first class yesterday. Now we try to move on with our next lesson, which you should be able to differentiate different types of claims, which are vague, overgeneralized, and ambiguous sentence or claims. So these things will be tested in your test 1. 2, you should be able to identify if the claim is descriptive or prescriptive. You should be able also to value and understand, value judgment and its relationship with prescriptive claims. Moreover, you should also be able to understand the relationship between standards and prescriptive claims. Okay? Right. So just now we talked about claims and non-claims. Am I right? So now your task, once you know if that person has given you claims or arguments, you as a critical thinker need to be able to evaluate and recognize if the claim is true or false. So how do you do that? By reading more, by researching. So once you have done it, that makes you a critical thinker because you evaluate someone's claim, whether it's true or not. Okay? Okay, so in our class in yesterday's class, I say that your lecturer in this course is short. And I ask you guys, the two of you, is it claim or not a claim? And some of you guys say it's claim because it's true. But really, the word short here is very vague. Okay, it's very vague. So it has certain, vagueness to the word short. So you need to clarify what does short means to you. Is it means that you are below 150 centimeter? Is it 160 centimeter? Does it count as short to you or not? So because of the word short here, this claim is vague because if you were to compare, the height of, maybe when you say short, maybe for European, short is like 160 centimeter. Yeah, but for Asian people, maybe 130 centimeters, then only you will be considered as short. You see what I mean? So there's a certain vagueness to it. So what is vague sentence? So vague sentence is a sentence that is too vague to be a claim, because we have different ways of us to understand what that person means. And very often when people give vague claims, we need to ask them, what do you mean by this word? Okay, so you need to clarify to the speaker, to the claimer, what does he or she means by the certain words, because it's vague. All right, now let's move on. Let's have a look at another example here. This is a radio advert. Okay, a radio advert says, "Snappy detergent gets clothes whiter." So there was this consumer, Zoe. She bought a box of Snappy, but she's not very happy, you know. And then she complained. She made a complaint by calling the customer service and said, "Hello, I have a complaint. So you people tell me that the new version of Snappy would actually get my clothes whiter than my old detergent." But then that person came, "Oh no, you got it wrong, because we said that the new Snappy that you just bought would get your clothes whiter than our version of Snappy." So they are using vague claims to manipulate the consumers. So because it's vague, people have different meanings, and then they could not understand what it means. Okay? Next, you know, I heard about this a lot of times when people say men are stronger than women. So this is actually a very vague sentence, because when you say the word stronger here, what do you mean actually? Do you mean physically men are stronger than women, or do you mean mentally men are stronger than women? So this claim is very vague. Next, as a whole, people are much more conservative than they were 30 years ago. So this one, it's quite specific in a way that it mentioned to you when this is compared to, am I right? But really, this sentence or this claim is pretty much vague, simply because when you say the word people here, right? When you say the word people here, do you mean like everybody, including kindergarten kids? Or do you mean like people who are over 18 years old? Or maybe people who are over 21 years old? Next, the problematic vagueness also comes from this word conservative. When you say conservative, you have to ask that person, when you say conservative, what do you mean? Do you mean that people who are more traditional in what way? So you need to go back to that person and ask, what do you mean by conservative? Like, can you explain more? Do you get it? So this sentence is vague in many, many ways. Right, so this is an example of horoscope reading, am I right? So horoscope reading says, this is your time to finalize travel and higher education plan. You are vibrant with friends and group projects. This will be a progressive period of unexpected change. So here, one simply reads the horoscope reading and one, simply believed in it. But this is actually very, very vague. Why? Because when you say time here, okay, does it mean next month? Does it mean today only? Does it mean, up until 6 p.m. today? Like, what do you mean by time? Is it now? What if I read this like next week? Does it still count as this is the time, if you know what I mean? So it's very vague right here, right? Not only that, when you read horoscope readings, sometimes a lot of people are able to relate to horoscope readings because it's very vague. So sometimes when people tend to believe in horoscope readings, they try to associate their personal events in their daily life with the reading from the horoscopes. And it's very interesting how horoscopes are always very vague, so that it gives room for the people who's reading it to actually connect to their daily life, to what they do daily with the reading itself. Do you get it? All right, let's move on. So sometimes maybe people who like football, they always argue, oh, this one is a better player, that one is a least competent player. But when people give you like claims saying that Messi is better than Cristiano Ronaldo, yeah, but this is actually a bit vague. Why? Because when you say better, you ask them, what do you mean better? How many goals or what? Or is it the technique when they defend? Or is it the passing? So you need to ask that person again, why or what makes you think that he is better than Cristiano Ronaldo? Okay, so we're done with vague. We're moving on to ambiguous now. So ambiguous sentence, I want you guys to please take note on the spelling. Have a look. How can we spell ambiguous? Okay, ambiguous. So ambiguous sentence is a sentence that when you read it, you can have more than one meanings. So you can understand ambiguous sentence in different ways. There are different interpretations of even one single sentence. Okay, so ambiguous sentences are not claim. It's vague because it has more meanings and more interpretations. All right. Let's take a look at an example here. Elise's dogs eat over 10 pounds of meat every day. Here, there are two meanings of it. Okay, the first meaning is that Alice's dogs, maybe Alice has 3 dogs, okay? So each one of Alice's dog, each one eat 10 pounds of meat every day. Therefore, Alice has to prepare 30 pounds at least every single day, because each one of Alice's dog, they eat 10 pounds each. Got it? That is one first interpretation. The second meaning, it could say, like, all 3 of Alice's dogs, 3 of them, they eat over 10 pounds of meat every single day. Got it? So, ambiguous claim is a bad claim because you can interpret it differently. Got it? Now here, this is a very classic, famous, ambiguous sentence, okay? So you might have seen this anywhere, everywhere, because this has very many meanings to it. So here we have 5 interpretations of one single sentence of I saw a man on a hill with a telescope, right? So let's see here. There's a man. So the first interpretation is that on a hill there is a man and I am watching him. I'm using my telescope. Okay. The second interpretation is that there is a man. Okay, he is on a hill who I'm actually seeing. Okay, and he has a telescope instead of me. Right? Sorry. The third one, there is a man and he's on a hill that also has a telescope on it. So basically, he's a man on a hill. He's on a hill that has a telescope with it. Okay. So the fourth one is that right now I'm on a hill. Okay. But I saw a man using a telescope. And lastly, so there is a man on a hill, and right now I'm sawing him with a telescope. You know, saw like sembelih, sawing him with a telescope. So ambiguity or ambiguous sentences are really bad because there are certain interpretations and it could mean differently to different people. So you have to be very careful, right? Let's see another example. We saw her duck. So this is a very straightforward, if you can say, very simple sentence, but this actually contains a bit of ambiguity here. So let's take a look. First, we say we look at the duck, which is the animal, yeah, that belongs to her. So her could be person A lah. So person A has a duck and we look at the duck. Basically what it means. Pretty standard. Second one, we say we look at her squatting down to avoid something. So the word duck here means that you are squatting down. Like when you go to the toilet, you squat down. Am I right? So we look at her squatting down because maybe that person wants to avoid something. Yeah. Okay. So lastly here is also an interpretation of it. So an interpretation of this sentence here, we saw her duck, also means that we use a saw to cut her duck. Basically, we sembelih that duck. Okay, so you see or not how ambiguous sentence is affecting the meaning of one single sentence, one single claim. Okay. Now here, the sentence, he fed her cat dogs, or he fed her cat food, or he fed her cat food. Right? It could mean two things. Number one, you are feeding some woman's cat with some food. Number two, you're trying to feed a woman with a cat food. So do you see or not how ambiguous sentence is actually making, people to have different interpretations of what a single sentence could mean. Right. So this is also another example. Next, we're moving on to the third part of it, which is what we call overgeneralized or overgenerality. So maybe out of these three things, overgenerality is the simplest, the easiest one to detect. Why? Because we would know it's overgeneralized if the information that was provided, number one, is too broad and very, very unspecific. Let's take a look at some examples. Here, the teacher asked, Johnny, what is 7 plus 5? And then Johnny said, more than 2. Technically, it's correct, but it's not accurate. Am I right? So this person, Johnny, is overgeneralizing his answer. It's basically like, it's a smart way. It's very smart, but it's not accurate. Just like the dean asked him, what were you drinking at the party? And the people say, oh, we only drink beverage. So they, alcohol is also part of beverage, am I right? So mineral water is also part of beverage. Coffee is also part of beverage. So the freshman is answering something very, very overgeneralized because they want to avoid problems, am I right? So let's take a look at another example here. A mother asks the daughter, where are you going? And they say, out. When will you be back? Later. So instead of, saying straightforward, a more specific place that person's going out, the daughter, she just simply say out or even later. So she does not being very specific about her going out. Okay. Another example is that people ask me, what is overgenerality? And then the answer will be a term. Yeah, everything is a term. But your answer is very broad, therefore this is overgeneralization. Okay? So here, these are examples of overgeneralization. You can pause the video, but I'll continue on, and we are going to talk about summarization of what we have studied just now. Okay, so if you can you please fill in this table? I want you to pause the video, and based on what you wrote on your notebook, I want you to write down what does it mean by vague, what does it mean by ambiguous, and what does it mean by overgenerality. If you can, please give an example as well, and then in a bit we are going to discuss about it. Okay? Right, let's see here. Vague sentence is when a sentence is too vague to be a claim and we cannot settle on it without asking the people to make it clearer for us. So it's very vague. Certain terms in the claim is making us question, and we cannot know what it means unless we ask that person No. For example, here, men are stronger than women, and you cannot help it to understand what do you mean? What do you mean by stronger here? Okay, so is stronger means physically or mentally or what? So you need to ask that person and see, what do you mean by this word? Okay, that is vague. Second, ambiguous. Ambiguous is any sentences that you can understand differently in different interpretations. So basically, ambiguous sentences have more than one meanings. So just like this one just now, I saw a man on a hill with a telescope. This one single sentence itself has 5 different interpretations, even with one single sentence. Okay? And lastly, when you talk about overgenerality, it's always giving information that is too broad and not specific at all. Just like Johnny here, when the teacher asks, what is 7 plus 5? And Johnny, cheekily say that it's more than 2. It's correct, but it's not accurate because it's not specific. Alright, so that is basically what we've been talking about, and you should be able to understand these things before you go to your final exam. Sorry, final exam, test 1. Now, let's move on. We need to talk about subjective and objective claim. So please bear with me for a few more minutes so that we can talk about subjective and objective claim. So here, there are different sentences. Here we have Kim weighed 80 kilogram. Kim is overweight, and also Kim is fat. So in each of these sentences, which one is subjective? Which one is objective? Let's see here. So subjective claim is a claim that is when the truthness or falseness of it depends on what a person thinks about it. Or even if there is more than one person, it could be one group of people think about it. On the opposite, objective claim is very objective and is very absolute. There is no gray area between, the correctness or the truthness of it. Okay, it's always very pop. It's very, very absolute. It's very, very fair. It's very there. Okay, so intersubjective claim is a type of subjective claim where everyone in the community agrees to the truthness or falseness of it. Okay, we're going to talk about this in more details in a bit. So let's see here. Kim weighs 80 kilograms. So here, is this objective or subjective? This is an objective claim. Why? Because it's very straightforward. There is a definite measure here, 80 kilograms. Maybe Kim go on a weighing scale and she basically sees that her weight is 80 kilograms. Therefore, it's very objective, it's very absolute, all right? But here, let's see, Kim is overweight. Is Kim overweight is a subjective or objective claim? So if this claim is coming out from a doctor, okay, so if this doctor said, Kim, you are overweight, this could be an objective claim. Why? Because when the doctor is using certain terms, instead of saying that someone is fat, the doctor will say overweight, because that is exactly the term that a doctor would say. But it could be subjective as well, because if it's just a normal person like you and me, yeah, and you don't see the weighing scale, you just look at that person and you just simply assume that that person is overweight. Therefore, it becomes a subjective claim. But if we look at that person and then we refer to certain standards, we might be giving an objective claim. So what I'm saying here from this example is that even with one single claim, you can debate. You can tell us, perhaps this is objective, perhaps this is subjective, if you look at different perspectives. Okay, and that is basically critical thinking class where you have your own opinion and you justify your answer. If you're able to justify your answer, therefore you are good to go. All right. But now here, let's take a look at this sentence. Kim is fat. Is this objective or subjective? This is obviously subjective, because when you look at the word fat here, take a look at the word fat here. So fat is not exactly the kind of good word that people like doctors would eventually use, because doctor will use, you know, kinder words like overweight, yeah, obese could be it. But it's fat is more of a term that society use to classify people as not attractive. Yeah, it's like the word beautiful. Therefore, it's very, very subjective. So, intersubjective. So just now we talk about intersubjective. So maybe if Kim is from Korea, there is certain standard of beauty, and then maybe in Korea generally people see, you know, that somebody who is certain type of body would be considered as fat, therefore, and everybody in Korea believes so, therefore this is an example of intersubjective claim. So intersubjective claim only applies for subjective claim. Okay, right, another example here, all ravens are black. So if you don't know raven, this is something that in Bahasa we call burung gagak. So does all raven black? Yes, it is. Therefore, is it objective or subjective? This is an objective claim because it's true. Am I right? Next, Jane said that steak tastes better than spaghetti. So this one is obviously a subjective claim because the truthness, or, you know, having said that steak is better than spaghetti is just based on Jane's preference. Am I right? So Jane believes that steak is better than spaghetti because that is according to Jane's preference. It's not according to anything else. Next, here we have an argument that says that Fanny says, oh, I feel sick yesterday, that's why I don't submit my work. But then there's something people say, oh, Fanny did not feel sick yesterday, she just left and then she could not finish before the deadline. So here, what this person is committing right here is that it's what we call subjective claim, because it's not true. Yeah, it's because that person was actually sick, and that is why that person does not submit her work. But you know, a few people said, oh, she did not feel sick yesterday. Therefore, this is a subjective claim because you assume that she did not feel sick. All right. Here, we have two persons talking about the dog, Spot. So Dick said, oh, Spot eats canned food right away. But then when we gave him dry food, he does not finish it until the half day is over. But then Zoe suddenly came out with a conclusion saying that, oh, Spot must like canned food better than dry. So here in one argument, it's not to say argument, in one claim here, there are two types of claims. The first one, we can say Zoe is very subjective because she took literally on what Dick said, whereas Dick was very objective about it because he simply describes what Spot did with the food. But Zoe gives her own opinion, therefore she is committing a subjective claim. Right, so there is no oil reserves worth exploiting in Iowa. Is this subjective? Yes, it's objective because it is at an end that it's very objective. If you know in Iowa there is actually no reserve worth. Okay, but if you add the phrase I think that, so when you say I think that, now it becomes subjective. Okay, so now I want to introduce you to subjectivist fallacy. So subjectivist fallacy is what Lily here is committing because Lily said to James, ew, the tie is really ugly. I don't want to go to party if you wear it. Then James said, what? This is nice lah, this is great. But Lily said, you're crazy, you're ugly. So subjective fallacy is when you commit to a mistake thinking that your subjective claim is correct. So basically, subjectivist is like subjective claim, but fallacy here means mistake. So it is a mistake that you commit if you think that your opinion is correct, because your opinion is subjective. Do you get it? Okay, so subjective fallacy, as I mentioned, is a mistake to argue that there is a lot of disagreement whether the claim is true or false. So you made a mistake by saying that steaks are better than spaghetti when it could actually be very subjective for different types of people. You are committing a subjectivist fallacy. All right. Now I want to take my time to actually talk about test 1, which will be in week 4. It will be on 13th of February. Right after the mid-semester break, we are just going to have one more week until we have our test 1. Okay, it's going to be on Thursday during our class. And what we will test you are basically claims, which what you guys learned yesterday, premises and argument, these are also learned yesterday. And then today we learn about ambiguity, vagueness, overgenerality, subjective and objective claims. Am I right? These have been covered just now, so this also will be tested in your test 1. And in a bit I'll be talking about descriptive and prescriptive and also value judgment, which also will be tested in your test 1. So what we have left in week 3, hopefully I have the time to cover repairing argument. So only these things will be coming out in your test 1. So test 1 will be 10% of your whole course marks. Okay, so there is certain structure of your test 1. You have 30 questions only. You have to answer all questions. So first you have to fill in some blanks, and then we have a bit of MCQ, and then we are going to be able to evaluate arguments. So here, if we have time, if we have time to revise, if we have time, then only we're going to do revision on this. So basically, you have to look at an argument and see if this is an argument or not. If this is an argument, you have to give us the premises and also the conclusion. Alright, that will be for evaluating arguments. Okay, so just now we talked about objective claim, subjective claim, and intersubjective claim, and also subjective fallacy. This is basically a recap on what I have talked about, and I'm not going to talk more about this because I just made my point, but I'm just going to summarize it a bit using these figures or pictures. Yeah. So here we have a weighing scale picture. Am I right? So this weighing scale picture indicates that this person, Kim, is 80 kilograms. So when we have this 80 kilogram, it's very fair, it's very impartial, it's very objective. Therefore, this statement that says Kim is 80 kilogram is an objective claim. But the word here in this claim, Kim is fat, is very subjective, because the word fat here, it's very subjective in a way that it has different meanings to different people. So maybe in Korean community, Kim is considered as fat. Okay, so the truthness, the fatness of Kim is determined by people who lived in Korea. So these people. So now if you want to understand intersubjective and subjective fallacy, they all fall into subjective claim. So if these ajumas, if these aunties believe that Kim is fat, this is what we call intersubjective claim. So intersubjective claim is when the person or everybody in the community believes that Kim is fat. Therefore, everybody here is giving an intersubjective claim. It's agreeable in everybody in the society of the Korea. Okay, just like how Korea has certain standard beauty and what they think constitute as beautiful. So people in Korea, the Azumas there in general, are giving intersubjective claim. Yeah. So lastly, let's talk about subjective fallacy. Subjective fallacy is a mistake that you think that your subjective claim is actually true. Just like how Chinese people in China, there was this time when they had this trend that you will be considered as beautiful if you have a waist that is smaller than an A4 paper. So you believe that people who have smaller waists are considered as beautiful or considered as very pretty. Therefore, you are committing to a subjectivist fallacy, because you cannot simply say one is beautiful or not, because that is very, very subjective. It depends on what somebody or someone thinks about it. Okay, so that is a mistake if you believe that thing is an objective, whereas it's actually a subjective claim. Okay, so that is basically a summary of it. Now let's talk about descriptive and prescriptive claim. So descriptive claim is a claim that is meant to describe what is it, whereas prescriptive is when you describe what it should be. Okay, this is actually very, very straightforward. Let's see here. Drunk drivers kill more people than sober drivers do. This is descriptive. Very good, because it's very straightforward. It's described to you that drunk drivers kill more people than sober people does. Okay, and here there should be a law against drunk driving. Here, does this give you description, or does this describe what it should be? Because of the word should here, it becomes prescriptive. Next, selling cocaine is against the law. Does this statement give a description or prescribing you to do something? This one is more of a descriptive, am I right? Because they're telling you that you cannot sell drugs because it's against the law. But if you say you should not sell cocaine, this is you tell them what you should do, what you should not do. Therefore, this is a prescriptive claim. What about this one? Government must not legalize marijuana. So must here is a modal verb, therefore it's trying to prescribe you. They're telling you what you must do or must not do. Okay, here we have a conversation between Ken and Dan. Ken said, "Oh, I'm hot." And then say, "Oh, well then you should take your sweater off." Is this descriptive or prescriptive? This is actually both. What Ken here is doing is describing that he is hot. What Dan is doing here is prescribing to Ken that if you think that you're hot, you should take off your sweater. So in this one particular conversation, we have both descriptive and prescriptive. Now, let's move on to value judgment. So when a person says good, better, best, bad, worse, or even worse, or people somehow make a value judgment that is meant to be prescriptive in the sense that we should do what is best, what is wrong, or we should choose what is good, what is best, what is wrong. So but the thing about value judgment is it's not always prescriptive. So you need to be able to understand the whole sentence itself. Okay, so just now I said prescriptive is more likely if you have the modal verbs, am I right? Like should, must. But here, when we say texting while driving is bad, it's also prescriptive. Why? Because what it indicates, what it also means is that you should not text when you are driving. Therefore, this is prescriptive. Same goes into this one. It is wrong to cheat an exam. In a way, it's prescribing people that students should not cheat an exam. But here, let's take a look. Doctors say to a patient that you should see some improvement in your chest pains at the end of the week. But here, this is not prescriptive just because of the word should, because you can see or you cannot see any improvement. It all depends on your chest pain. Okay? Here we say cats are disagreeable animal. Is this prescriptive? This is actually value judgment because it depends on some people, you know. So therefore we can say not every value judgment is prescriptive. Right, let's take a look at here. We have a conversation between Jack and Pamela. Jack said, "That's not enough ice cream for you, Pamela." By all means, Jack is trying to say to Pamela that she should stop eating ice cream. Is it right? But then Pamela here is a very tough girl. She said, "What do you mean? There's no such thing as too much ice cream." Because what Jack is doing here, he is trying to prescribe to Pamela that, you know, you should stop eating. No more ice cream for you. But then Pamela is trying to challenge him by saying, "What do you mean? You cannot say that there is too much ice cream or too little ice cream." So what Pamela is doing here is that she's trying to challenge an unstated standard of it. Right. So here, a prescriptive claim can either exert a certain standard on what we should do or what we should not do. Let's take a look at this example here. Abortion is wrong, but then it's a bit prescriptive, is it? Because how do you know it's wrong? Abortion is when you are pregnant and you have a baby, but you no longer want the baby. Therefore, you want to take it out of your body as a woman. But then it's very prescriptive in a way. When you say abortion is wrong, by all means you don't want people to abort it. But then where is the standard or the judgment coming from? Is it from Bible? Is it from the Quran? Or is it just some moral ethics that you believe that aborting babies are wrong? So basically, it all depends on your judgment. So we're talking about standard right now. Where are you based your judgment from? Okay? Just like the statement here, eating dog is bad. So when we say eating dogs is bad, where do you get the judgment from? Where is the standard that you're using? This is a prescriptive because in a way that you are saying that that person should stop eating dog simply because, you know, in a way it's entailing or it's indicating that you should not eat dog. Is this coming from a point of view of a vegetarian person where that person believes that, you know, animal has somehow an opportunity or equal rights as you, and it's wrong for you to eat that person, or to eat the dog, to eat animals? Therefore, this could be a perception coming from a vegetarian. Or is this standard coming from the Quran, or is it actually coming from your, you know, your moral values as a person as well? So we are trying to, you know, critically think, where is the standard coming from? Where are you based your judgment from when you say eating dog is bad? Same goes like here, when you say it's wrong to kill people, you might want to say why, because so where is this coming from? Does it come from your ethical values and moral ethics coming? So I'm just trying to make you question things when it comes to values and judgments and standards. Okay, where do you get your, you know, claims from? Where is the standard? Where is the line here? Where have you taken it from? Is it from a certain book, or where do you get it from? Okay, so that is basically it. Now what I've given you is that I have posted a short Blackboard discussion, and I want you, after listening to my lecture today, this is a very long lecture, and I apologize, I really have to finish the lecture. As I mentioned, your test 1 is coming soon, and I could not finish the syllabus in 1 week. Therefore, you have to listen to this and make yourself understand it. So I have created a Blackboard discussion. All I want you to do is just answer these 3 questions and tell me, is this claim a prescriptive or descriptive? And you also have to give reasons. If you think this is prescriptive, why is it prescriptive? And things like that. Please answer and provide your discussion before 2nd of February 2020, 11:59. This would be on Sunday. Okay, so thank you so much guys for listening. I hope you would have a good Chinese New Year and a good mid-semester break. But please, please, please do not forget to do your revision because your test 1 is coming soon. Right. Thank you so much guys for listening. I really appreciate it. If you have any kind of problem, please do not hesitate to call me or even to come and schedule an appointment to see me. In order to do so, please email me. You know my email. Alright, thank you so much guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful mid-semester break. Take care.